Hey everybody, welcome back to Jeff Bull Central. Boy, oh boy, it's getting late. It's the middle of the night, more or less, and you know what? I haven't made a one-on-one video, and I haven't made a music video of like a legit new song that I've written in acoustic form for a while. So I decided to do both of those things tonight because I'm feeling restless. Like I'm feeling. Oh man, most of my life I feel like I'm waiting for the next awesome thing to occur and or waiting for the next horrible hammer to fall. I live between those two states, and as much as I've um, investigated everything from psychology, just having tons and tons and tons of therapy, medication use, even religion, philosophy, the whole gamut of stuff people look at for mental health issues. I've seen a lot of it, and I can't ever seem to get rid of this persistent need to live not in the here and now, but to worry for the future, to worry for the past, or rather to be anxious or regretful or mournful about the past, about everything that didn't go right. If you're like me, your brain constantly feeds you crap about how you could have done this better and done that better, and oh my god, I wonder what's going to happen next month or next year or next week. So I've been trying to divorce myself from the thoughts, because I kind of realized that this is what recovery looks like from psychosis, for me at least. I haven't had a relapse in a really, really long time. I've actually never had a relapse. I only had one extreme episode. And, like, I think I think I think I spend so much time in a daze, going from one emotional state to another, and there's a lot of days where I'm feeling really good, and there's a lot of days when I'm feeling really bad, but I feel like the overall trajectory has been upward for me in the last few years at least. Alarmingly, since COVID happened, that's when I started feeling a bit better. I mean, more or less, because there's plenty of fear and stuff still in me. But I wonder if most people who suffer from mental health issues, schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, borderline personality disorder, all these different types of ways that we consider the mind or the personality or the ego, or just the individual, their thinking, it's just a little cockeyed. Yeah. And it's always like no one ever complains about a mental health issue where you're too optimistic about everything. I feel great, doctor. I feel like I could fly. I mean, that could be a problem, but it's typically not. It's always a negative thing. And I wonder how many people who suffer from issues such as these realize that you actually do have more control than you think you do. Now, I don't want to seem as though I'm making light or small or belittling or just not taking seriously enough how people feel and their experience. I'm of the mindset that people's experiences speak for themselves. It's really hard to argue with that, right? If I tell you that my life is god-awful ruin, how are you going to argue with that, really? However, it could be said that it's a lot of it's a matter of perspective. There are people who are in terrible situations in this world every day of the year who feel less pain about that than I am used to feeling about schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. There are people who are willing to, dare I say it, have a little faith in life, or whatever, and to more or less try to put some kind of separation between this barrage of just negativity and bad emotion and bad thought. And if you're suffering from some kind of psychotic or just disruptive thinking patterns, it's usually very keyed up. It's usually very dramatic, and often there's hallucinations and both visual and auditory, and sometimes with your olfactory senses and things like that. Now, I have to admit something, that I actually have a hard time remembering the worst of it. And this happened quite a while ago, about 7 years ago. So for me, my psychosis, I know I've said that a billion times on these videos, but I feel the need to refresh the information for new viewers. But I can't remember much of what happened, and maybe that's a benefit, because the things I've been told were pretty awful, and what I do remember is pretty awful. But I get the sense that had I known some of the tricks that I now know, I might have been in a little bit better position. And I wonder if I knew what I know now about care, professional care, mental health facilities, round-the-clock observation, counseling, medication management. See, I had to go kicking and screaming to that. But I ended up there anyway, and honestly, I know that, trust me, I know, there's a lot of discussion in the world about how we treat the mentally ill, especially from people who've been in these places. You'll find that there's a lot of mistreatment. However, I don't think that's the norm. I don't buy that. I buy the idea that the vast majority of these professional people are actually interested in looking out for us, and that the delusional states account for not all, maybe not even most, but some of the perception of mistreatment or neglect, or use like lighter words than that, just basically ignoring people, or ignoring their emotions, or sticking people in places that just they get stuck there, so that they don't know what to do with those people. Or I don't know. I've heard a lot of different things from a lot of different people. I know that my stay wasn't so bad. I mean, it was, but not because of the people who were in charge. That being said, this world is not kind to people with mental health issues, even still. So there's this old song I love called Starry, Starry Night. My wife showed it to me. She's right there. So it's about Vincent van Gogh, right? And I can't remember the exact lyric, but it says, they're not listening. What is it? They are not listening now. They were not listening then. They're not listening still. Perhaps they never will. And so that's kind of true. It's a tough one, because behavior becomes erratic often. Thoughts and words become erratic. And for a person who's never experienced this, or just anybody really, it's not fun to watch, or to have it directed at you. So it's good to be aware, and you probably should be aware, that it's also not rainbows and sunshine to be like this, just as far as the outer world, how people perceive and how people react. And you will lose some people. You may lose friends. You may lose family. You may lose everything. And for the people who this has been their norm, their absolute basal temperature of 0. I feel for them because it's rough. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. But I think that it God willing, and maybe with a little effort, a little practice, a little patience, a lot of patience, know how arming yourself with good information about this stuff, more or less not feeding into the delusions, and trying to find some form of separation. This is what recovery can look like. It can look like there are still bad days, but it can look like there are an equal amount or maybe even more good days. So the thing that I'm on about right now is the separation of thoughts. Being so incredibly sensitive to my own internal workings, my feelings, my thoughts, my mental framework. Is it a negative framework right now? Is it a positive framework right now? Acknowledging it's negative, understanding that, can you go one step further and say that maybe that's not where I ought to be? And if you can say that, maybe I ought to try to be in a positive place. How do you get there? See, the only thing that's ever worked for me is some kind of separation, some kind of boundary. These are not me. These are not my thoughts. Try it and believe it. Because believe it or not, it's more or less true. I don't care how you look at it from a purely psychiatric perspective or not. These are not representative. These thoughts and these feelings are not representative of who you are at your best. And isn't that who we should be? Isn't that who we should endeavor to be or try to be as much as possible? Our best, not anybody else's. Nobody's expectations of us really matter, especially once you're in the gutter with this crud. But these aren't your thoughts. These belong to... I don't want to give bad advice. What my wife and I did was we gave it a name. We call this thing inside of me, and I know how it feels for me, and I can't say how it feels for you, but surely you must admit it's not quite, it doesn't quite gel. It is a little foreign, don't you think? I mean, I don't want to give bad advice, but look, we named mine. We call mine Dave. We say, so what's, my wife will say, "What's wrong, honey?" And I'll say, "Oh, Dave is really picking on me." That's a good example of a conversation we might have any given day. That lets her know what's happening, more or less. And it gives me the opportunity to give it a name, a separation, an other. Because I know who I am. Luckily, this didn't befall me until I was in my 30s, so I really got a chance to know myself in a lot of ways. And again, I feel bad for people for whom this happens in their teenage years or even younger, because that's actually more common. It's harder because you don't necessarily know who you are at that point in your life. And this thing comes along, this thing develops inside of you, and all of a sudden things are crazy, things are out of control, you're out of control. And so who is the person and who is the behavior? Who is the real person and who is the real thoughts and who is the bad thoughts and the craziness? Delusions and hallucinations are maybe a little easier, but those are also more gripping. I think full on, when you see something that isn't real, and it is real to you, and it's even in your memory as having been real, it's not easy to cut that loose. And I can't express urgently enough that if you're experiencing something like that, you need care, seriously, because no one else can really properly deal with all the complications and manifestations of that scenario, except for professionals. However, the one thing you can do, and the one thing that actually has worked for me, is in moments where it's just a vibe and maybe a little hallucination. Yeah, if that makes sense, not quite so strong. Try separating. Try it. This is not me. This is something else. This is Dave. This is I don't know, personify it maybe even. I don't know if that's helpful. Again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a psychiatric professional. I'm just a sufferer trying to share some of what I've experienced and what has worked for me. The basic point is, number one, this isn't who you are. And you know that. Trust me, you do. This isn't who you are. And you can recover. And maybe recovery won't be full recovery. For some people it is. And you can't see the future. Neither can I. Neither can anybody, right? Try to gain a little separation. Try to forgive yourself, because there are people who won't forgive you. And you will find out the hard way that you cannot change their minds unless they are willing to change them. And you will find out the hard way that you have a choice. You can either accept their false idea of who you are, or you can acknowledge, like I said, this thing doesn't represent you. This thing is a twisted, malfactored, malfeasant shade. It's a ghost. It's an echo. It's real, but it doesn't have to encompass everything. If you have any kind of wherewithal at all, try separation of some sort, just thought-wise. I hope that's helpful. I hope I didn't send anybody bad information. Really, I do. I'm rooting for you. I really am. I'm rooting for you. And I'm rooting for me, even though it gets scary and it gets dark and it gets difficult sometimes. So, okay. That's it for this month's On Camera Mental Health discussion. Like and subscribe and share and click the notification bell. I know that a lot of people show up just for the video game stuff. So please bear with me. I am still working on it. I'm always playing video games. I'm always going to review video games. Don't worry about that. But you know what? These videos are kind of cool too, even if you're not really a mental health sufferer or don't really know anybody who does in an extreme way or anything. But I hope that there's some food for thought anyway. So, okay, I will see you next time. Jeff Bowl Central. Bye.